All right, well, technical difficulties kind of cut me off, and we're back. I apologize for that. That was a little bit annoying. I was sitting here kind of rambling on before I realized that the camera had disconnected. So this is part two of the other video that I just had on. Um, all right, so as I was saying, we've got I'm going to turn this light off and see if it makes it any clearer. All right, so you've got step 5 here, which basically covers uh, the intakes, the side of the fuselage, the nose section to the fuselage. Then over here, you've got step 6. Okay, here, 7 here, and this is kind of off in its own little world, and it's not sure if it's, you got a couple of arrows with different options, but is this part of 6? Is this part of 5? Now the more I look at it, it does look like it's actually part of 6, and it's giving you the option of the trailing edge flaps up or down. The same with the leading edge flaps. And one thing with the F-18 Hornet, and I've seen this a lot on various forums and Facebook groups, the Hornet does not have slats. It's trailing edge flaps and leading edge flaps. No slats on the Hornet. So just a little minor pet peeve. All right, so you've got the installation of the trailing edge flaps, leading edge flaps. You can either put them straight up or down. Now, for those that might not be familiar with the Hornet, when the aircraft is on the deck, when it shuts down, it bleeds all the hydraulic pressure. Everything is always dropped. There are very, very few occasions. It could be maintenance, it could be any other issue, but you will almost never find the F-18 with the control surfaces in the up or neutral position while the aircraft is on the deck. They will always drop. All right, step 8. So we've got the assembly of the nose landing gear. Again, the installation of that one photo etch fret that I said I've never actually used. You've got the angle of attack indicator. You've got the pitot tube. And again, nice thing with the Hasegawa kit is it gives you the option of the launch bar. You can either have it raised or lowered. The only drawback to that is if it's lowered, unless you get the kinetic carrier deck, the launch section, the Nimitz carrier deck section, or scratch build your own. I guess you can say Hasegawa was ahead of the game when they provided this option, because you can do it in a launch mode if you wanted to. Step 10, you've got again some of the antennas, the angle of attack indicator, and the pitot tube on the port side, the nose landing gear doors. We go over to step 11, and we've got the main wheels, or the main landing gear, and the main wheels, as well as the various actuators. Step 12 is installing the main landing gear doors. Okay. 13 is the tail hook, installing the landing gear, installing the tail hook, and assembly of the engine exhausts and installation into the fuselage. Step 13 also covers the photo etch head-up display that's provided in the kit, the cover for the aft instrument panel, the aft deck, and the aft turtle deck for the two-seat canopy. Now, one of the things that needs to be mentioned is on this particular kit, with the exception of one aircraft that VMF AW121 had in Desert Storm, this particular cover for the Weapon Systems Officer's instrument panel is only appropriate for F-18Bs. And the the aft deck behind the weapon systems officer's ejection seat is not correct for any delta at all. It's very simplified, and there's a lot more details on that. But again, it's one of those things where, you know, with some good references, you can either leave it or you can correct it. The cover for the aft instrument panel, again, this is for the B. For whatever reason, and it's still unknown, in the 20 plus years, close to 30 years that this kit's been available, there has only been one correction set for this, and that was done by Black Box several years ago. That's actually an item that we hope to address here at Flying Leathernex here in the very near future. Step 15 has the installation of the vertical tails, the speed brake, the rudders, the horizontal tails, and the Lex extensions. Now, one thing on the D, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in real quick. Okay. These braces right here are not on any C or D model Hornet. So do not install these. The small spaces that the tabs fit in, you want to go ahead and fill those, but do not install these when building a D. These were on A and B aircraft only. Again, you've got, these are the photo etch rear view mirrors. You've got the brace and the frame for the two-part canopy, installation of the windscreen, canopy in the raised position, or yeah, this part here is to put the canopy in the raised position. This is an area of the kit that you really need to be careful of when you go to install it. I've always had difficulty getting these to stay just right. So just be careful when assembling your canopy in the open position. Of course, in the closed position, it's really not going to be that much of an issue. And then you've got the photo showing them both ways. 18 is assembly of the intakes, the Su-63 wing pylons, sway braces, the Bru-33 vertical ejector rack, as well as its sway braces, the Su-62 centerline pylon and its sway braces, the Nighthawk FLIR pod, the LST scan pod, which is a strike camera and a laser spot tracker. This step here has you basically attaching all the AA&E, which is aviation armament equipment. You've got the LAU 7s on the wingtips. Again, you've got the LST scan pod on the port side, the Nighthawk FLIR on the starboard side, the wing pylons with the fuel tanks and VERS, and then you've got the sway braces for the LAU 116s on the side of the fuselage, and that would basically be you don't have to load a Sparrow. You don't have to load a AMRAAM on there. Now, one thing is, a lot of times, if there are no missiles that are going to be flown at all, the LAU 116 will actually be removed from the aircraft, and what we'd call a blank-off panel is put in its place. The blank-off panel is physically the same size as the LAU 116. It obviously doesn't have it's not a launcher, and there are no sway braces. You have an option. If you're not going to load a missile, there can still be a LAU 116 on the aircraft without a missile. So you can either have the pads or not. It's entirely up to you. If not, you can say it's a blank off panel and you're good. All right, 21 is the assembly of the photo etch boarding ladder, as well as its installation. I believe this is the kit boarding ladder, so you have the option. There's also the remaining antenna for the C and D variants on the sides of the nose and the upper ones. Now, the antenna that I mentioned to remove underneath the fuselage at the beginning. Those antennae are actually these now. So on the C and D, you've got the antenna up above on top of the fuselage behind the canopy, where on the A and B, this antenna was underneath the intakes. The rest of the kit instructions, let's go. Okay. It's basically the paint guide. You got your standard paint scheme of Federal Standard 36375, light ghost gray on the bottom, and 36320 on the top. Again, this is a VMFAW 242. Unless it's in the top part written in Japanese, which I highly doubt, there's no year given for when this paint scheme was applied. I'm going to guess prior to 1993, which probably one of the 242's earliest paint schemes. You've got VMFAW 121 here, and then VFA 106 as the last option. Now, those of you are going to notice that it's got Navy on the port side and Marines on the starboard side. That's because VFA 106 was a training squadron, and it was mixed Naval and Marine Corps aviators, so that's the reason for, as well as all the personnel in the squadron are both Navy and Marine Corps. So that's why you've got both Navy and Marines on the aircraft. Back of the page, typical and standard for almost all Hasegawa kits and other manufacturers as well, is basically just a breakdown of all the parts. For Japanese modelers, there's also a way where you can order extra sprues if you happen to break or lose something, and I'm sure it's probably got, how much they cost and what shipping is. I don't know if this ever was, and I'm not sure if it still is an option for modelers outside of Japan. It's something that I've never really looked at, so I don't know. Well, that's the kit. What we're going to do now is jump into some of the aftermarket items that we here at Flying Leatherneck's Decals have for this kit. And I'm going to touch up on a couple of items from a couple other manufacturers that you can also use on this kit. All right, so let me go ahead and put this instruction sheet away. Grab these. All right, so some of the aftermarket that we've got, pretty simple stuff. So there's a canopy mask. Again, it's pretty cut and dry. This is designed for the two-seat Hasegawa Hornets. It's made out of Oramask 810. It's available direct on our website. You can get it at Sprue Brothers, Hannets, and Rebel Alpha on eBay. One of the things that I've tried to do with the Flying Leathernecks line is, I'm a modeler. Of course, this is a business, but I understand that modelers are on a budget. I try to retail all my products to where you can get a nice product for the absolute least amount possible. All my masks, we retail them for $5. One of the criticisms that I've received in the past is, that the Tamiya tape is superior to the Oramask 810, and that is absolutely true. I will admit that with no reservations. Okay, but the Oramask 810 does the job. It does what it's supposed to do. It masks the canopies. It masks the canopies well, and they work. When you're done with this product, when you're done with the Tamiya tape, the rice tape masks, you throw them away. So why pay $10, $12, $15 for something that you're going to throw away when you can get 2 or 3 mask sets for the same price? It's, again, yes, the Tamiya tape, some of the other masks, the material is better, but when this does the job and it does what it's supposed to do at $5 a pop, again, it's going to go in the trash when you're done, and I really don't want you throwing your money in the trash as well. Okay. So another item we have is a 3D printed head-up display. I apologize if this isn't too clear. It is a one-piece head-up display. And you can see it in there. It's basically, you take it out of the package, you do a light sand on the bottom, and then what you're going to do, actually I'm going to grab the kit real quick. Basically, you're going to remove this part of the kit right here, the HUD portion. You're going to cut that out, and you're going to replace it with the 3D HUD. Very simple. Also, and it's kind of hard to see, and I apologize, I really don't want to take all these out of the package, but there is, actually it's just visible right there. There is a clear, there's clear HUD glass that is pre-cut in 5/1000 clear styrene. So again, you basically just, you remove the HUD glass, you cut it, you glue it to your HUD, and then the HUD gets installed in the kit there. And a little bit easier than the photo etch. Again, it's 3D printed, a little bit better detailed, and right out of the package, it's pretty much almost ready to go. All right, the next item we have available for the kit are corrected Lao 7 wingtip launchers. These Lao 7s were designed by our friend Richard Van Zant, specifically for the Flying Leatherneck line. If you happen to be building your aircraft and you don't want to load a missile, the detail on the Lao 7s is pretty dead on accurate to the real items. I actually maintained the real Lao 7s for several years in my career in the Marine Corps, and I had measurements, I had drawings, I had photos that I provided to Rich, and these Lao 7s are, he did a phenomenal job designing these based on the references that I provided him, and they're pretty much dead on for the Lao 7s. Again, if you want to do any F-18 Hornet from the A to the D, from approximately 1988 up until around, actually even currently, the Lao 7A6 is the launcher you want to get. I pulled this one out. I do have another set of Lao 7. I have 2 other sets of Lao 7s, the Lao 7A5 and the Lao 7 FA. The FA is specific to C&D Hornets after 2008, and the Lao 7A5 is for F-18E Hornets from 85 until late 87. So if you're doing Operation El Dorado Canyon, any of the early Hornets, the Lao 7A5 is the correct launcher that you want to get. So again, we've got Lao 7A6s for the wingtips. All right. This is an option. These aren't a requirement. This is just something if you want to add a little bit better detail. Again, these are, all of our products are 3D printed, and these are A&L A39 chaff and flare buckets. There is a part on the lower fuselage of the kit where that's covered with a photo etch part. You can use the photo etch part, or you can choose to cut that section out and install our 3D printed buckets. It just gives a little bit more relief and you just paint them up. You can either decal over them with chaff and flare bucket decals that are available from a couple of other sources, or you can just paint them yourself. So there's the buckets. Another item that we've done that were designed by Richard Van Zant is corrected pylons, wing pylons for the F-18A through D. We actually have 3 sets. I only grabbed these 2 simply because they're more specific to the Delta than the first set, which is only applicable to A and B aircraft. Again, this is another piece of equipment that I worked on throughout my career in the Marine Corps. And again, I had, my personal photos, my measurements. I had technical publications, and I provided all that information to Richard. And again, he worked his magic and knocked out the most accurate F-18 pylons from, I'm going to be honest, from any manufacturer at any point in time over the last several years. They are dead on accurate compared to the actual pylon. The Brew 32 ejection rack installed in the pylon, Richard did a phenomenal job on that as well. Each set comes with 4 pylons as well as a centerline pylon. And if you notice here, they're broken down by bureau numbers. Over the course of the career of the Hornet, as the aircraft upgraded, of course, the armament equipment went through various changes as well. And with the references I provided, Richard was able to capture some of the very subtle changes in the details of the pylons, and they're broken down by bureau number. So if you do decide to go the aftermarket pylon route, look at the decal sheet you're building, look at the bureau number of the aircraft you want to depict, and then that will determine which set of pylons that you get. So there's set 8013, 8014, and 8015. So again, like every aftermarket, yeah, would I love to see you use our products? Absolutely. But very few modelers are going to look at your pylons and go, oh, those are wrong. They're looking at the overall presentation of the model. So you make the choice. You can either go out of the box, or you can go one step above and get these pylons and make it just a little bit better. Again, it's entirely up to you. All right, now there have been several manufacturers that have actually released aftermarket seats for the SJU-17 that's used on the F-18E and F, the F-18C and D, F-18A pluses now, F-18A pluses, F-14s, T-45, and a couple other aircraft have used the SJU-17. Personally, I feel that Ares is the most accurate overall in 1/48 scale. The overall proportions, the way the headrest looks in comparison to the rest of the seat, the Ares seats just capture the look of the SJU-17 better than any other aftermarket SJU-17 out there. Of course, if you do get the Ares sets, the seat belts are a separate item, and they're photo etch. And the photo etch in these particular sets, oh, actually they changed it. Another set I had was steel. These ones are in fact brass, so it may be a little bit easier to use the brass. So again, they're very good seats. One thing that I will touch up on is, regardless of which kit you use these on, they may be too big or they may be too small. They may be bigger or smaller than other aftermarket ejection seats. One thing you have to keep in mind with that is the kits that a lot of aftermarket products are designed for are not 100% accurate replicas of the real aircraft. It is physically impossible for that to happen, simply because on a real aircraft, the fuselage skin is maybe less than a 1/4 inch thick. Of course, a scale model kit, if you were to actually measure the thickness of the plastic, you're looking at a 2-inch thick fuselage, which obviously that's not how it is in real life. The kit manufacturers have to make adjustments on several measurements and aspects of the kit in order for the aircraft to look proportionately accurate. So when that happens, aftermarket manufacturers also have to compensate for those inaccuracies. So it's very possible that this ejection seat or another ejection seat, regardless of the type or what kit it's designed for, let's say the real SJU-17, and I'm just throwing out numbers here. Let's say it's 50 inches tall from the bottom to the top. Well, Ares could have made their ejection seats 50 scale inches tall, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to look right in the kit that it's designed to fit. So always keep that in mind when you purchase an aftermarket product, that it's either too small based on your references, or it fits great in this kit but it doesn't in this kit. It's because of those different variances, and just always keep that in mind. These seats do look great in the Hasegawa Hornets though, so you got no problems there. All right. Now, if you don't like using photo etch, okay, Fine Molds out of Japan has these ejection seat belts and harnesses. Okay, and these are actually a flexible, I believe it's a plastic. When applied to regular kit plastic seats, you can apply them with either Tamiya thin cement or any other liquid cement. They give a much better 3D look than photo etch. Again, they're flexible. You can bend them and move them. Now, if you are applying them to resin ejection seats such as the Ares, you will need super glue to attach them. The only downside to the Fine Molds seat belts and harnesses is that they can be a little pricey and they can be difficult to get. So keep that in mind. But these are an excellent way to add the detail to your ejection seat. All right. The last couple items I'm going to touch on is a couple of decal sheets that we've released here at Flying Linux Decals over the years. The first sheet, 4813, this was released actually back in 2008. It is unfortunately out of print, but it may be found out there, and I have been tossing around the idea of reprinting this sheet. What it did is it covered all 6 F-18 all-weather squadrons that were in service at the time, and all of the command jets. Another little pet peeve. The Marine Corps doesn't have CAG birds. There's very few exceptions to that rule. We have command birds, color birds, show birds, but not CAG jets. Anyways, all our color birds at the time were chosen for the decal sheet, with the exception of 332, simply because when I researched this decal sheet, when I took several of the photos, and when several of the squadrons sent me photos, 332 just at the time just did not have a color jet. So I was very fortunate. I was stationed in Fort Worth, Texas at the time. 332, all their aircraft were there, and they had just recently returned from their first combat deployment using the ATAR system. This was back in '99 when I photographed these aircraft. So, of course, you got 121 from Iraqi Freedom, 224, 225, VMFAW 242, and 533, along with the 332 option. So that's that sheet. And like I said, I may release this again here in the future. I'm not 100% sure, but it is out there. I'm sure if you do some searches, you may be able to find it. All right, this is the most recent sheet. This covers actually a number of different aircraft. It's got a couple of A pluses on there. It's got some C's and it's got some D's. They're all Hornets that served in combat. One of the interesting options on this particular sheet is this two-seat ATARS aircraft from VMFA 232, which had always been a single-seat squadron. Of course, now all remaining F-18 squadrons in the Marine Corps are mixed. They both have C's and D's. But at the time, 232 was deployed to Afghanistan, and they needed a quick reconnaissance asset. So what they decided to do was attach two ATARS birds to the squadron, and that was the first time that the two-seat aircraft had been attached to a single-seat squadron in a combat situation, as far as the Hornet is concerned. Again, down here, we've got another 225 option and a 533 option from Operation Deliberate Guard way back in the early 90s. So this particular sheet is currently available. It was printed by Microscale. It's an 8.5 by 11 inch sheet, has full color placement guides. The earlier sheet was printed by Cartograph and is no longer available. And that's it. Of course, there are a multitude of aftermarket decals out there from a number of manufacturers, covering deltas from multiple nations, multiple squadrons, multiple color schemes. You're not limited to any one option. But if you do have any questions on anything, feel free to leave a comment, and I will do my absolute best to, actually I won't do my absolute best, I will answer as soon as I'm able. Again, if you have any feedback on the video, if there's anything you feel I need to do different, if there was a problem with the lighting, if you think anything can be changed to make the next video better, please let me know. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. And until next time, thank you for stopping by.